And Dr. Akinshiju, several things have come up, from Dr. Kengu. He talked about our capacity to produce what we eat. And indeed, as a mother, as a housewife, I go to the market today, the prices of potatoes, Irish potatoes, have refused to come down. The prices of even the sweet potatoes is going up. You discover that fresh pepper, the one we know as atarudo, remains very, very high. Plantain, you can't even touch it. And these are, daily needs. Daily needs. If demand is knocking off supply and increasing prices, it means it speaks to our capacity to produce, as Dr. Kingu has said. Do we lack that capacity to produce what we eat now?
Well, historically, I think we've had issues with enough food production. It's not a recent phenomenon, as it were.
But we're making progress in some areas at the time.
Yeah, well, I know that over the past so many months, a major headache had been food inflation, the food inflation rate. So much that we nearly celebrated, sometimes in February, when we're getting reports of reduction in food prices, And there's a linkage. If in February, the reports that were coming in by independent media reports, media survey, that prices of foods across Nigeria were coming down. And of course, we couldn't stop, religious activities. It was not just the Salah. You had the two main religions, commencing their fasting during that period. And we also know historically in Nigeria that once it is fasting time, when you expect people to eat less, that is when the price of food go up. And then you start wondering what exactly are the factors behind this. I think a major challenge for Nigeria is that we have unannounced, or rather unpronounced challenges from cartels, product cartels across markets. And I think there's a need to start looking at that. Sometimes, of course, we all agree that we have structural challenges where it comes to food baskets areas, either in terms of the challenges of moving agricultural products from the farm gates, to the city gates, as it were, bad roads, increased cost of transportation, etc., etc. But the truth also is that in the market, you also have cartels that actually determine prices before they go into the space. So it is not an actual case of market forces. Normally, it's the demand and supply that should determine, what the price is. But where you have human elements intervening at that level, it becomes unusual. And I would think the relevant government agency should review this and see how it can be engaged. Of course, we, across the world, especially in the developed world, we see what what American governments, the European government have been doing with antitrust.
When you talk of human
interventions,
yes, can you be explicit?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, for instance, in the market, where you have Pepper Seller Association, Yam Sellers Association, Ram Sellers Association, and all that. For every supply that gets into that market, they also do a projection of the relationship between supply and demand, and determine what best price they want to sell, and of course direct their members to sell. Okay. And that is why you get into a market that is supposed to be a group of heterogeneous sellers who have not seen themselves in the morning. But from one stall to the other, you realize that the prices are in the same range. And that is not supposed to be so. So when you have that kind of intervention, you have a third-party intervention determining, price, and that's a distortion in the economy. That is one. Then two, yes, we've been talking about security challenges that had to do with food supply, And that's, I don't think we have done so. I mean, I don't think that is being addressed effectively, though there have been an improvement, over time. But the important thing again is storage. You cannot produce so much, and you are not storing them appropriately. So we can be rated as the largest producer of cassava in the world. Nigeria can be rated as largest or second largest producer of yam in the world. Recently, we have been rated as the largest producer of rice in Africa. And then Nigerians are also complaining, what exactly happened to those production, So could it be about that we are producing but we are not conserving? Are we conserving but we are not processing? There are so many issues that need to be addressed in that value chain. So for me, I think the important thing is to start understanding what government is doing. I also understand and appreciate what government is doing. But there should be a relationship, between government and people in the market, especially where it comes to food. Because this food thing, if you look at the NBS figures, food and non-alcoholic beverage, particularly, were the two main factors that are driving this price movement in March. We are talking about 9.2 percentage points in the index, compared to the next one, I think accommodation or something, which is about 2%. So we are talking about 7 percentage point difference. So it's a major headache. But however, I think what the government is doing, from my own reading, because I like to look at the challenges and see if there are movement at all on the part of government that is responsible for policy deployment. And I feel, well, if government had budgeted so much, about 1.5 trillion, for the recapitalization of the Bank of Agriculture, it does understand that the government, it does mean that the government understands or appreciates the challenges, and that there's a need, of course, to recapitalize the Bank of Agriculture in a way that it will be able to disburse funds, to farmers. And I hope it will not be the same situation we had with the anchor borrowers program. Then all of a sudden, I've seen a lot of activities around the river basin, ecosystem. Unlike before, when you don't even know who is who in the river basin. And now the president has said, okay, he's declaring a state of emergency. When I saw that, I said, well, that is very good. If the president decides to create a state of emergency, on food and food production, it is also an understanding and appreciation of the challenges, within the environment by the government. So, but how are these being communicated? How are stakeholders, in that value chain, being consulted and, of course, carried along in the implementation of this vision, as it were? Recently, we have also heard about the special agricultural processing zone, SUPA, that had been on the drawing table for more than 14 years. I also hope that finally this will take off, because everybody who has been somebody has talked about the challenges of processing into secondary products, So the SAPZ, as it were, being funded by the FDB and other bodies, if we are able to realize, would it, of course, create some sort of a softening of these challenges? The long and short of my position is that, in truth, food is a major problem. But more than that, the issues with the third-party intervention in determining price should also be addressed.
Okay.